Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to embark on a journey like no other. Welcome to the Glum Lot Podcast,
your go-to destination for a unique blend of recovery and discovery.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Mark. And in this podcast, we will endeavor to create a safe and uplifting space for our guests and listeners to share their stories with sincerity and a touch of humor.
Remember, we are not a Glum Lot. The Glum Lot Podcast is more than just a source of entertainment. It's a beacon of hope, proving that even in the darkest moments, recovery is possible. Every story we share carries the power to inspire positive change.
So buckle up, get ready to listen, and join us in discovering the strength that lies within every individual's journey. This is the Glum Lot Podcast, where humor meets hope. All right, Brett, welcome to episode number 48 of the Glum Lot Podcast. It is a second part that started in number 47 with Patrick H., the stand-up comedian from Brooklyn. And first one was great. If you haven't listened to it, please go back and listen to it before this one. That way you'll get the whole picture.
Get the whole story.
Right. And we were talking about life beyond your wildest dreams and how in sobriety we can accomplish that, which we could not when we were drinking. Right?
Yeah.
So alcohol holds us back from so much. And once you get sober,
my eyes were open wide after that.
And it's up to you.
Yep.
And you can still use the 12 steps of the program to navigate your sober life and pretty much accomplish what you want.
Also allowed me to include other people for once.
Yep.
Interesting.
And that's huge. Let's, before we get started again, let's listen to a clip of Patrick from Caroline's in New York City.
Yes. Thank you so much. You guys, I'm celebrating. Last week marked 10 years sober. Can I share that? Thank you. Yeah, I can't believe it. 10 years straight, not a drop of alcohol, not an ounce of weed, not a shred of fun. No, I have a good time. I go to this support group where we celebrate these anniversaries by calling them birthdays. So last week, I became a 10-year-old boy. And from what I understand, if I stay sober long enough, when I turn 21, I think I get to drink again. Me and you, buddy. No, it'd actually be horrible. It'd be horrible if I drank again, because every time I got wasted, I would take off all my clothes and climb buildings. I was like a sex offender Spider-Man. And I went to jail for that kind of behavior, and I learned a lot of lessons in that experience. The main one is that cops hate it when you smile in your mugshot. Yeah, I'll never forget it. The dude was like, "All right, back against the wall." And I was like, "What's up?" And the other officer goes, "That is fantastic. That is. I'll get drunk on that tonight." So I'm smiling against the wall in my mugshot. And the other officer goes, "Hey, Sarge, it looks like we got a comedian." I was like, oh my God, these guys believe in me.
All right, so without further ado, let's reintroduce our guest, Patrick. Welcome back, Patrick, to the Glum Lot Podcast.
Thank you.
We are here for the second episode.
Part 2.
Yes, and so where we left off was we were talking about your comedy, and I just wondered, who are some of the comedians that you really think are amazing?
Oh, man. I grew up obsessed with George Carlin and Andy Kaufman. I just watched a ton of Comedy Central, Seinfeld, of course. But right now, I guess my favorites are this guy Joe List is a sober comic. He's become a buddy, and I just think he's probably the funniest comic I know.
While we're talking about that, there's a lot of these guys like that aren't famous that are quite good, and they've got these niche things. Where can people find you?
Yeah, I have a website. It's called www.patrickholbert.com, and it's Patrick like the normal spelling, and then my last name is Holbert. And on my website, you can get to my Instagram, and my Instagram handle is The Holbert Report. And I also have a podcast. It's called We Hired a Sitter for This. Mm-hmm. And me and my buddy, who's another comic, Gastor, he's a dad. And we put all our episodes up on YouTube. So my YouTube channel is youtube.com/PatMiscellaneous. Pat Miscellaneous being my former rap
I was
name.
gonna say.
Damn!
Yeah.
So, I'm on the internet, and I would love people to stay in touch because I have a special coming out this summer. So that'll probably be on my YouTube page, but I also might try to convince another label or another bigger comic to put it on their page because I just want a lot of people to see it.
Tell us about the special.
Yeah, so I got invited. So for years, I've done a lot of recovery conferences with varying degrees of success. A lot of them have been super fun. I had one in Delaware where the people tried to cut my mic. They were
Wow.
it was a daytime picnic, and my buddy called me in the 11th hour. He said, I booked this recovery thing, but I actually can't go. Can you go do it? And at the time, I was, I guess, 6 years into comedy, and I had just hit this mother load of material that came from my biggest slip in sobriety. I didn't slip on booze or drugs, but I got married, and within 6 months of being married, I cheated on my wife. And that led to us doing all this work around our marriage and our sex life, and I wrote a whole show about it. And I started doing this material at a daytime AA convention where there were children not at the show, but they were nearby.
In the periphery.
Yeah, and I was just like, look, if you want me to do an hour-long set, I got to do this material
Right.
because it's what I'm working on and whatever. And I got into some of the
sensors.
yeah, I got into the more
Boy.
sensitive stuff, and a guy in the back just started saying, "Cut the mic,
Read the
that's it."
room, read the room.
I think he said something at one point. He said something like, "All right, that's enough. That's enough." You know, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, one of those.
So that was my worst conference experience. Anyway, I recently got booked back in April. This YPOD group that I've worked with for years. They said, we want you to do our conference. We always love having you. The catch is that this year we don't have money to pay. Do you still want to do it? And I said, I do want to do it, but can we kind of make a trade? Can I bring some cameras and film it? Because I have all this material that I just want to capture and put out there and stop perform. I want to move on with my creative process. So I brought cameras. I'm blurring the crowd, or I avoided shooting the crowd. Right. I'm protecting anonymity. And I shot, I guess it was a 50-minute set, and I've already edited it down to like 33 minutes or something like that. And I'm really proud of it. It's like some of my best material about drinking and recovery. I'm calling the special qualification. I don't know that people will know what that means. I'm keeping it vague. Actually, in the beginning, I put a disclaimer that said this was filmed at a recovery conference. Everyone in attendance is in addiction recovery themselves. I don't say AA.
Yep.
And it's on that theme, and I hope everyone will watch it and enjoy it because I think I think everybody at this point in 2024, people know about addiction and
it's out there.
Well, even if we don't struggle with addiction, a lot of those things we still experience, right?
Yeah.
When we're using these substances.
And so people will find this on your website when it comes
I think
out.
I'll put it on YouTube. And like I said, I haven't. I'm waiting to hear back from some labels about where exactly it'll end up. So hopefully it's on Spotify as an audio thing, and then on YouTube or perhaps a streamer. I don't know. We'll see. It came out good. So,
yeah, nice. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Now, when you play in front of a crowd at, say, like a comedy club, or you play at a conference, do you have pieces of material that you take out and put in? And
Yeah. Like this week, I'm doing a run of shows up around or down around the Binghamton area. Last night, I was at a cider distillery. Tuesday night, it was a brewery. Or no, it was just a bar and grill, the Airport Bar and Grill. Tonight is a brewery in McGraw, New York. Tomorrow night is the Red Barn Brewery in Otsego, New York. And so it's funny to do recovery stuff.
I was going to say,
I was thinking about it too. Everybody's sitting out there drinking, and you're talking about the hell of drinking.
But they say stay away from people, places, and things.
Yeah. And I'm literally performing in the factory where my drug of choice is made.
Right. So I know I saw on your website that you are consider yourself the Jason Bourne of.
Oh, yeah.
Being in that. So what are some of the things that happen?
Yeah, I always tell people, like, what started happening for me before all the stuff with my wife was, like, oh, there are beautiful girls everywhere, and I'm funny, and they want to talk to me now that they saw me just be funny on stage. So it's the temptation is everywhere for every kind
Every
of
part of
behavior.
it. Yeah.
And there's the basic stuff I always tell people, which is like, have a drink in your hand, have a club soda or a ginger ale, whatever, so you don't pick up a real drink. Have bookend. I was always into like calling people especially if I had a rough set. Like when I have a rough set, that's the most triggered I ever feel. So yeah, you got to like have people to call. I actually had a few guys in LA that if I was getting off stage at 1 a.m, I could call them and know that they were awake and sober, and I could be like, yeah, I had a rough night.
Especially since your coping mechanism was right there in front of you. Man,
what does a rough set look like? I mean, being heckled or?
Yeah, well, for me, the roughest is when I get angry on stage. Like if I get heckled and I don't respond in a funny way, instead I flip over.
Because we're sensitive.
Yeah, and I get mean or cruel, and it makes it worse. Or if like it's a distracting room where it's not set up for comedy, and yeah, like sometimes I'm just pissed at the organizers or producers. I'm like, does anybody care about how to do this right? And when I start taking other people's inventories, whenever the funky stuff creeps in.
I'm seeing some of our characteristics being listed here.
Yeah. So I think, and some nights, it's just like a crappy audience who are
a fucking bummer,
who are also mean. Or if it feels like I wasted my time, because there are sometimes I've driven 4 hours to be here, and then it's like, wait, this was a waste of my time.
And it's a thing, man. You're doing this every day. And so I imagine you can be susceptible to a little criticism and just get into funk a little bit.
Yeah. So you gotta I gotta take care of myself. That's why, like, on a trip like this, I've been to a meeting every morning on this trip.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. What is your process for finding meetings when you're going to be on the road?
Yeah. So last week, I guess I found the Binghamton AA website, looked up their schedule, and kind of mapped. I've been doing 9 a.m. every day in my neighborhood. It's my new home group. We have a little clubhouse. If you're ever in Brooklyn, Bushwick, Brooklyn, come to the North Brooklyn Recovery Center. I go to a 9 a.m. there every single day, 5 days a week. And
nice.
So now I'm in a groove where I love program again. And so I was excited. I love going to meetings around the country. When I was a TV producer, I went all over the country. And now as a comedian, I do the same thing. So I found the website. I kind of thought about what my days are going to look like, and I was like, I'll just go to the 9 a.m. every day.
Mm-hmm. But you always plan on trying to hit a meeting every day?
Yeah. Because again, it's like the people watching aspect of it, and being an extrovert. I just want to meet people. It's the best way. If you're in a new town, if you want to know the rhythm or the vibe of a town, go to the AA meeting there.
Do you ever get material at meetings?
Yeah, I have bits from meetings. I don't ever try to be funny at meetings. That's a resentment I have.
Are people disappointed about that? Like, there's a comedian. Let's see how funny this guy is.
Well, it's usually the reverse.
I was going to say they probably don't want to hear the comedian.
Well, I was going to say the reverse is that I avoid saying that that's what I do, and then if somebody finds out, they say, "Well, you're not funny."
Right?
Oh, man, then you're off to the races.
Because I'm here to get sober, get well.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love meetings. I was just saying to somebody this morning that my favorite traveling meeting I went to was in Columbia, Missouri. The meeting was in the basement of a feed store, and the chair's name was red and the treasurer's name was blue.
Shit.
Awesome.
And I was just like, this is the best.
Have you ever walked into a meeting on the road that is just like, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, my wife and I had a horrible experience. She's from New London, Connecticut. She's sober. We met in the program.
Oh, no kidding.
And we went to a meeting in Groton, Connecticut about 8 years ago, and there was 2 chair people there and about 6 or 7 other attendants. And it was an open discussion meeting, and the 2 chair people spoke for a half an hour each. They took us all hostage, and they gave us their stories. My wife left. She's like, I'm going to sit in the car. I'm not going to be... These guys, and they were doing the mansplaining thing. They were like telling, you got to do this, you got to do that. And they thought we must be newcomers because they never saw us before. We both had like 4 years at the time or whatever. She goes into the car, horrible experience. I use it as like just, this is ridiculous, but I need a meeting. cut to 4 years later, I'm like, let's go check out that Groton meeting. It can't be the same thing. Let's just go. And we go, it's the same fucking two guys. And they've taken this town hostage with this meeting. And
Wow.
So, I've been to, actually up in Dryden, New York, or over, I think we're further north of there. Last summer, I was actually on a coaching case in Ithaca for many months, on and off. I would come up here for weeks at a time. And I found this meeting there, and a couple times there was just nobody showed up, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And that's like a thing. That's why I feel so grateful when the meetings I've been to in Binghamton have been amazing.
Sure.
The people take care of each other. They're there early to make the call. Like keeping the doors open, as we say, is so important. And I'm so grateful when I go somewhere where it's like clearly a thriving.
Yeah, my thing always is when there's and I haven't been to a lot of meetings where there's a bad vibe, but a few. Is that what if a newcomer walked in?
Exactly.
You know,
yeah.
and A, there's nobody there.
Yeah.
Or B, the people running the meeting are basically doing what you said,
Yeah.
making it about themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. What Yeah. That's
I
bad.
mean, one guy the other day. It doesn't matter where it was. Somebody got on the soapbox about prescription medication, and I watched several people in the room get upset, and I'm like, why you got to bring that here, man? Like that.
Yeah.
Like there's plenty of language in the book that says we're not doctors, so don't even talk about it.
Yeah,
so
I think the explanation for all that is you take a lot of human beings, A, B, human beings with a lot of character defects and flaws that they're trying to work on.
Yeah.
And you put them in a room, something can go wrong.
Yeah,
and that's where
yeah.
the traditions are so fucking
totally
important.
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Another buddy of mine spoke the other day at a meeting, and he said he was getting into the. My wife and I, our catchphrase is keep it in the I. Like talk about yourself. When
Right.
you're sharing, you just say, I got to do this.
Yeah,
I
you
gotta
say
do
the
that.
word you, you're on the wrong track.
Exactly.
That's right.
And this guy, he said, I think it's the definition of insanity if you're in a 12-step meeting and you're not working the 12 steps. He's like a big thumper. And he's going, if you're here and you're not working the steps, you're not doing the program. All that stuff. And he's laying it on so thick. And I'm just like, dude, that is such a turnoff. And nobody wants to be talked at like that. And I didn't say that to him.
But if he had just rephrased it for myself, when I came to meetings and I wasn't working the steps, I felt I really wasn't getting anything out of it.
Exactly.
Once I started working, that's
right.
And exactly.
Exactly.
It's phrasing.
And later on, he did correct himself. He called himself on it. He was like, I'm an arrogant person. I think I know what's best for everybody else. So it was all good.
And you know what I've always heard is the 12 steps are there to keep us from killing ourselves, and the 12 traditions are there to keep us from killing each other.
Yeah.
And that is so true.
Yep.
And so, I always go back to principles before personalities. That's a huge thing for me.
Totally.
And there's people in the, just like there's people that probably don't like me, believe it or not. I'm not for everyone.
Yeah.
But there are people in the rooms that kind of rub me the wrong way.
Yeah.
They still have great messages.
Totally.
They really do,
Yeah, and I can tell what my spiritual condition is with how forgiving I am in the moment of those people.
Yeah.
Because if I can just roll my eyes and move on with it, that's a pretty good day.
And that's true outside of the rooms too.
Yeah.
It really is. A lot of the stuff we learn from the stops and we learn in the rooms is so applicable to life that has nothing to do with our disease.
Totally.
It's just being a human being. So.
Yeah.
But anyways, I want to know more about what you're doing and what you got coming up. So do you have like an album or something coming up? Or?
Yeah, so this special that will come out, it'll be the same thing. It'll be this 33-minute long YouTube special or album on Spotify and stuff. So that'll be the same
material.
Same exact thing, yeah.
Okay. So now, talking about comedians and styles and all that, I know every comedian seems to have their own style. Anthony Jeselnik.
Yeah.
Deadpan.
So good.
Kind of a dick. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Who's that guy from Tennessee who's very popular?
Oh, Nate Bargatze.
Yeah. Great, works clean.
Yeah.
He's got that, self-deprecating. How do you develop that kind of a character?
I don't really know, honestly. Like, I think I just learned I'm just a heightened version of myself. I learned that being a little bit revealing and vulnerable mixed with kind of being a little twisted about it is just fun. And also, like, what's cool is, like, sobriety tells us, like, be right-sized, get smaller, be humble, be respectful. And what's fun about stand-up is it's a safe space to just get weird and be the biggest version of yourself and be a little bit perverted sometimes or twisted or whatever. Like I need that creative outlet.
And that's really what comedy is, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's going outside the norm. You know?
Yeah.
When you can take something and flip it upside down.
Or revealing our true
That's what's
selves,
funny.
Which can
that's
be
part
perverted and which can be outside of the norm, you know.
Yeah, and like Jeselnik, he's one of my favorites.
Mine too, yeah, I
But
love him.
I'm so far from that.
It's a different
stylistically.
animal.
Yeah, like he is a mathematician, surgical wizard.
Very technical.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, and I respect that, and I wish I had more of that, because I love. It is very. What is the word? It's a great feeling when you write a nice tight joke that you know
and
is
you
going to
craft
work.
it perfectly,
Yeah.
and the delivery is, perfect.
Exactly.
And then there's people like Lenny Bruce who would just get up there with a newspaper and just riff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, do you riff at all?
I do quite a lot. Like last night I was on stage for 60 minutes and probably 45 of it was prepared material and the rest was just kind of because
Playing
these
off of
rooms
people.
I'm not like a big comic yet, so I'm not like getting booked at the Funny Bone.
Yeah.
I'm not doing a lot of proper comedy clubs. I do clubs, but right now if I want to be on stage for an hour, I got to go do breweries and wineries and these alternative spaces. And last night, the sun is setting in people's eyes. There's a lot of moving parts in the room. The bartenders don't care about the show, so there's a lot of noise going on. It's bright daylight. So I'm just like, there's times where to focus the energy, I got to go off script and get weird and have some fun with the people in the room and do crowd work and whatever. So, I think I went on several tangents last night that were fun, but definitely like a little like, okay, I'm going to jump out of the plane. I hope I have a parachute on.
Yeah,
right now.
I hope this lands well.
Yeah.
Now, do you have, are there techniques in your arsenal or comebacks in your arsenal for hecklers? Like, do you have to build that?
Yeah, like, I think the biggest thing I had to learn was to not take it personally or get too angry too fast. Like, I remember one of the first shows I was ever booked on that was not an open mic. My set was not going well, and it was a tough, drunk, late night crowd. I think I got on stage at 1 a.m, and there was a British lady. This is in a touristy part of New York. A British lady in the back said something like, "Oh, just come on," something like that. And I called her the C word from the stage. I was just like, "F
See you next Tuesday."
Yeah.
Did it get a laugh?
No, it was like
people are like,
because
"Holy
people
shit."
are like, "Oh, he's angry and
Yeah, he's not
he
professional.
doesn't trust himself." Like they could see the fear, and people can feel fear. And once you drop that like confident, like I'm in charge attitude, they get scared because they're like, "Well, where?"
This is now uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't have a lot of stock responses.
No. Who's that comedian that's super popular right now is Matt
Rife.
Yeah, you know something? When he works the crowd, he's funny.
Yeah.
I saw his stand-up. Not funny.
Yeah.
His material was not good.
Yeah, he's really he really hacked the system for how to
Deal with the crowd.
to make a career for himself. Like that was a very smart approach. I mean,
Right.
the guy is selling out arenas around the
Yeah.
world, so like I can't really hate on him. He's not my cup of tea, I'll say that. But Phil Hanley's been putting out some crowd work clips that are amazing. Sam Morrill has some crowd work clips that are great, and sort of heckler response videos that are really funny. So those are two guys.
And I just got a message from our producer who says,
Yeah.
crowd work is what everyone posts on social media,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they don't burn their good material online.
Yeah. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, but Matt Rife, I mean, I started seeing his clips,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this guy's amazing. He's the funniest guy I've ever seen. And then I saw stand-up. I was like, what happened, dude?
No, he was sort of critically panned with his Netflix that came out.
Yeah, that's where I saw him. Yeah. So, as you continue on, and a guy like you is writing all the time, right?
Trying, especially now that I'm putting this album out. I got
Right, and you're always looking for new material because you don't want people to hear the same thing twice.
Yeah.
So how do you develop new material as it pertains to recovery?
That's interesting. A great question because the last 4 years of my life, I had a kid 4 years ago, so much of my material has been about raising a family and being a new dad and stuff like that. And I'm just now like getting back into the nitty gritty with recovery stuff because I'm about to start to. Well, I just did a new first step recently, working with a new sponsor, and doing the inner work. I think will probably just naturally lead to
stuff will come out of it.
Yeah, more recovery stuff. And my writing routine used to be I wrote every single morning, just long form journal style writing. But that routine turns out is not easy to maintain with a toddler. So I have to get back to the daily stuff because I haven't been as diligent.
This is a real in the trenches work part of it, right?
Yeah. So I
out of all the stuff that you're writing and everything, though, how much of it is usable? Like a very small percentage?
Oh yeah, tiny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like so the journaling comes from the Artist Way that I talked about. That's the morning pages. That's part of this woman who created this program. It's like you write 3 pages longhand every morning. And that is just to get to the point where when you sit down to actually write, you've already got all the junk out. So what I've noticed when I have 2 shows. I've the show I do for the college students that we've talked about. And then when all this stuff happened in my marriage, I wrote this whole solo show about our sex life and our marriage.
Can I just jump in for a second with a question? How does your wife respond to you using her?
I am so lucky because we both admit that we have shades of narcissism. And she likes being talked about, good or bad.
And she's in recovery, too.
Yeah, she's in recovery. She has an amazing sense of humor. She's hilarious herself. She was actually my original podcast co-host. She sometimes will sit in when Gas Door is not available.
Booker man.
Yeah, she's great. No, she's amazing. She would be a great guest for this. And she worked in a comedy club when she was in her bottom. She worked at the Comedy Cellar as a waitress for years. So she loves comedy. So she encourages me. And with the cheating stuff and the infidelity and all that, she said when we were in the clear, we did some real deep work with a couples therapist. She was like, I think you should, because I got booked to do, this is what happened. I got booked to do a storytelling show called We Still Love You, and the gimmick was you tell a story about yourself that you're the biggest shameful thing that you're ashamed of, and at the end the crowd yells, "We still love you." It's like doing a 5th step in front of a crowd of people. And she said you have to tell the story of what happened. So I told the story of how I cheated on my wife, and then she said, and then I started working that out and finding the funny parts of it. And she was like, you should do a whole show about this. And so she's the one who encouraged me to put this out in the world.
Now, did they still say that they loved you?
They did. They did.
Wow. Good.
They still loved me.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like, that show exists. I never did put it out as a special, but I'm kind of like, is it time to go back to that? Because now my life
Were there any good funny parts in that?
I hope so, right?
Yeah, I think it's a great show, but do
you take bits and pieces of that and weave it into other shows?
Yeah, there's some basically like childhood formative sex experiences are in a lot of my shows. Like I did material about it last night in front of some horrified elderly folks who have seen and done it all themselves.
Of course they have.
But yeah, what was I don't know what the hell I was talking about.
We never do.
Yeah, but the point is I am coming back around. I want to write more current stuff about my life as it is now.
Now, do you sponsor people?
I do. I don't have any right now. The last guy I sponsored went out to do more research.
Okay, that's happened to me a number of times.
Yeah.
I actually have 5 sponsees that died.
Yes, he's a killer.
Yeah. In my reign. Yeah. In my reign of terror.
Yeah, no, a guy just died. A couple people died in our community in the last couple months, and it happens. It's crazy how the longer you stick around, how often it happens.
The more you're stepping over.
It's all and then the thing is, whenever it happens with me, I become close with somebody. They're sponsoring them. They're usually younger than me because I'm a pretty old dude, and I'm doing my best, and then they OD or they get hit by a car drunk or some shit happens, right? there's always a part of me that says, oh my God, what did I do wrong?
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course. You know?
yeah.
And then I talk about it with another alcoholic, and they said, "Are you shitting me?
Not
Man,
a
you did
damn
everything
thing."
right.
Yeah.
You know,
And
it wasn't going to be. Get down from the cross.
It would have happened
Yeah.
sooner.
Yeah, and also there's I don't know if it was a letter Lois wrote to Bill or something she said to Bill, but allegedly he said this keeps happening, people keep dying, and she said, well, the whole point is not for you to save somebody else, it's for you to stay sober, and
right.
so it is working because you're still sober.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's tough. It's a tough. I mean, we're lucky. I don't know how long you guys have been sober, but like fentanyl didn't exist.
It didn't
I
for me either,
was
yeah.
Still out there, and I wasn't doing many drugs. I was smoked some weed mainly. I do think I would have eventually gotten into coke because I knew I would love it, and that's why I avoided it. Honestly, I was like, I think I'll like that too much. I have a feeling I probably would have had. Yeah, it's just too easy to OD on.
Yeah, I had a
these things.
sponsee, a young kid, 27 years old. Great kid, funny as shit, very smart. Everyone loved this kid, and he just wasn't getting it.
Yeah.
And I would pick him up for meetings almost on the daily, and we would have great talks in the car. We'd sit in he lives with his parents. We'd sit in the driveway for an hour, talk about the spiritual aspects of the program. And the kid OD'd, and his mom Narcaned him. And a couple days later, I'm driving him to a meeting, and I can tell he's still not. It didn't scare him, you know. And I said, his name is David. I said, David, you're going to die. And I'm not just saying this as like a bullshit line. You're going to die. 3 days later, he died. His dad called me and said, David lost his battle with addiction, and I was fucking devastated.
I'm so sorry.
And I went to the wake, and his dad was like, you know, I just want to thank you. You're one of the people that really went the extra mile with David, and you know, his mom and I kind of saw this coming. And I'm like, and I always thought the kid was going to get it, you know, but you know, all of this is like you say, it's really like I'm making this about me. It's not. I stayed sober. I learned from him. And I, you know, looking back, I really got to cherish the experience I had with this kid.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I got to realize too, it's probably going to happen again.
Yeah.
You know?
But like, I hope you allow yourself to grieve. I mean,
I did.
It's grieving somebody isn't making anything about you. I mean, it's sad when these things happen.
Yeah, and we have a disease that wants to kill us.
Yeah.
And quite often it's successful.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, what do they say? It wants you alone and then it wants you dead.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the sequence.
But that's not where it's going to take us.
But we are not a glum lot.
No way.
Who's ready
we are
for
not
comedy?
a glum lot.
Jesus.
There's a comic in recovery, Mick DeFlo. I don't know if Mick has stuff online. He's an older guy. He's so funny, and we used to do conferences together. And he said the first time I ever did comedy in front of anybody in recovery was at a rehab, and I go there, and it turns out it's a fundraising rehab comedy show for a founder of this place who died. So a lady goes up and says, Billy lost his battle with cancer. He helped thousands of people in this rehab, but he got skin cancer, and then it spread to his lungs, and then he did chemo, and he lost all his hair, and he withered away, and he finally lost his battle with cancer last week, and he's dead now. Who's ready for the comedy show?
Yeah, right.
Let's hear it for
Poor Mick has to go up there.
You go up there, you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What do you think of Louder Milk?
The show? Is
Yeah.
it a show? I never watched it. It's,
shit.
What's his name? Yeah, I've got to check it out. It keeps getting
The guy
Ron
from
recommended.
Sex.
Livingston.
Yeah, the guy
Yeah,
from
Ron
Sex and the
Livingston.
City.
Yeah, from Office Space. That's
Yeah,
all I know of it.
it kept getting recommended in the Stop Drinking subreddit. Do you use Reddit?
That's
I don't.
the one I'm always
Brett's
in.
big into
That's
Reddit.
the
I don't
good
know that
one,
shit.
yeah.
Louder Milk is funny as shit.
Yeah, and
it's about recovery.
Does it seem accurate? 'Cause I always love.
It's a very
Oh, it's
exaggerated
absurd.
accuracy.
Yeah,
Okay.
absurd. Yeah,
I
definitely.
love how AA rooms are portrayed in movies,
Oh,
like the
yeah.
Pulp Fiction room. It's
Yeah.
just like the
Yeah.
paint peeling
Oh
off
yeah,
the walls.
that's what Louder Milk is kind of like. He's at
Yeah,
this
yeah.
church, and the priest is a complete asshole.
Yeah.
and they always are threatening to kick him out. Every person that's in the recovery group with him has got some fucking severe,
Yeah.
problem of quirkiness, but
Yeah.
you see, it's a very exaggerated, but
Yeah.
you see a little bit of that, and you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
kinda,
yeah.
Oh, there is definitely. He
Yeah.
actually attended AA meetings.
research.
for himself at one point, but that's when he realized he was really just a heavy drinker at the time.
Oh.
But also for the research side of it. Yeah.
My favorite aspect of fake AA meetings and movies and TV shows is they always make someone act as like a moderator, like a mental health professional.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
right.
if you saw the people chairing these meetings, they're not moderating anything.
The person's always got a clipboard and they're,
And the
they even
glasses
brought
on
that
their
in.
nose.
They even brought that in. Remember that guy that came in after he left?
Yeah, to run
they
the
brought
group.
the mental health guy in.
Yep.
So you're reading that Reddit?
Yeah, I really like it.
Yeah, that Stop Drinking one is
I think
a good
Stop
one.
Drinking and the Alcoholics Anonymous subreddits are such a great resource for people.
Really supportive, too.
Now, do you just read it, or is it like an active text participation?
You can. Yeah, you can respond to people. And I do occasionally. Like, anytime somebody's like, I'm going to my first meeting or whatever, I always try to write something.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I mean, since I'm 64 years old, I'm uninitiated on Reddit. How does somebody find the ones you're talking about?
Yeah, you just sign on, go to the website. So go to www.reddit.com.
Is it REDIT?
No, REDDIT.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're talking to an old man.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
all right.
Do you use Facebook? If you can use Facebook,
Yeah,
you
you
can
can
use Reddit.
definitely use Reddit.
But instead of finding individuals, you're finding groups.
Okay.
So it's like finding groups that are interesting to
And
you.
can you search groups?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they'll have
You can
the
even-
guitar subreddit is amazing.
Oh, okay.
There's
All
you'll love it.
Okay, I'm
Just
gonna
don't-
check it out.
Just avoid the weird far right stuff or ultra far left.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Just
I don't
avoid
wanna-
the ultra
I mean,
anything.
it's open ground in that
Yeah.
place, but
Yeah.
I do like the Stop Drinking one because I don't know if you've done it yet, but you can actually let them know what your sobriety date is, and you get the little numbers on how many days you're sober.
Yeah.
But I use that a lot early on in sobriety, and I do still to this day just to support people, right?
Yeah.
Because you hear it, the people are just struggling in there.
Yeah.
And you can get some good stories in there too, for sure.
Yeah, and we're lucky that in New York, there's every type of meeting, every vibe of meeting. You can go to meetings that feel like being in a dive bar. There's the Atlantic group, which feels like going to a corporate event or something. And New York State in general, I've had great experiences with AA.
yeah.
There are places in this country where AA is not pleasant or fun or interesting, and people on those internet groups are like, I can't go to this meeting because they don't accept me for who I am, my sexuality, they won't let me in because I'm trans, all this kind of weird stuff. And these people are finding the support they need on the internet.
That's right.
And it's like amazing.
Now, do you still talk to your sponsor on the regular?
Yeah, so my new sponsor, we see each other most mornings at the 9 a.m.
Oh,
I
nice.
go to.
Okay.
My very first sponsor, I was in Chicago. I was about to get maybe 3 years sober. It's crazy. I've been sober 16 years, so it's all starting to get
It runs together.
mixed up. Anyway, my very first sponsor who changed my life, brought me through the steps, he called me to say, I just was calling to tell you might want to find another sponsor because I'm actually going to give it another try. And he had like 8 years at that point.
Wow.
Yeah, that
And
happened
he
to
was,
me, too.
He was the mayor of our sober scene.
Yeah.
He knew
That's something.
everybody.
But it really lets you know how fragile it is.
Yeah.
No matter how strong it is,
Yeah.
it's always in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
My first sponsor, who I met at my very first meeting, was so instrumental. I don't know if I would have got sober if it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
And he, the things he did were the things like you're talking about, like texting you, calling you. Well, he wasn't texting me because text wasn't around, but calling me to go to meetings and picking me up and taking me to lunch and all that shit. And then he moves to Atlanta, and I get a call, and I may be sober like 12 years, and he's like, I just wanted to let you know I went out, and it can happen to you too. And,
Yeah.
And so then I didn't hear from him for a while, and I just heard from my grand sponsor, who said, yeah, he went out, he got really bad, he tried to kill himself, he's in a facility right now. I'm like, please have him call me. He hasn't called me yet.
Yeah, yeah.
And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's tough.
But yeah, I mean, man,
Doesn't get any
there's
better.
there's no guarantee. It really is one day at a time.
And he's an interesting one because I'm still friends with him. Like,
Yeah.
I love the guy. Like, he literally changed my life. I won't give him the credit of saving my life. I think that goes to George, my therapist. But this guy changed my life. He's still somebody I'm in touch with. We don't talk program, but I respect him. We went to a wedding for a fellow that he was also close with.
Yeah.
And lots of sober people at the wedding because the guy who got married was sober. But this ex-sponsor was there, and it was interesting to watch him not like have much control over how much he was. He
Oh,
drank.
God,
I mean, it was
yeah.
open bar, so he all night was throwing him back, and he got pretty drunk. And he did say, he said at one point, he's like, "Yeah, I think I'll probably have to come back at some point."
He may not make it.
Yeah, that's the scary thing.
Yeah,
right?
that is a scary thing. You know, I know. I was listening to some of your work, and you talked about going to a work event, and there's something in the back of your mind that says, "Yeah, but it's not epic yet."
Yeah.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about that how that works?
Yeah, like I just always wanted things to be more exciting, and I was a thrill seeker as a kid. Like as a kid, I was skateboarding, I was rollerblading, BMX biking, jumping off the bridge in town, climbing buildings. So when I got to college and started drinking, I always wanted the experience to be bigger and better.
Level up.
Yeah, and like how are we going to tell a crazy story about this tomorrow? I started getting in this routine on my college campus of I wanted to like climb every building or break into buildings. I wanted to break into every building and
That's
cross it off a list.
Wow.
I wanted to be able to say, yeah, I pissed off the peak of that building over there, whatever. And epic. That just was. It's so I can't do material in a podcast setting, but the point is that this is fine, but let's make it epic.
Excess.
Right, and that's part of your personality, but also once alcohol's introduced, that just blows it up.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you arrived today, I had a box of Fruit Loops for you from a story that. Can you tell the Fruit Loops story?
Yeah. So impulse control is what we're talking about. I think.
Yeah.
Alcohol removes all impulse control. So a week before my college commencement, we had an all-day barbecue, which I love barbecues as a drunk because it's socially acceptable to start drinking at 10 in the morning. You know, build a huge fire, play with sharp cooking implements and lose all your motor skills, right? And we get bombed, and 2 in the morning, I said to my best friend Josh, who I was also rapping with in the band, I said, Josh, you know what we need more than anything in the world right now? He said, what, girls? And I said, no, we need Fruit Loops.
Of course.
So we go to the food hall, we break into the food hall, set off some kind of an alarm because instantaneously the cops are there, campus police, they come, chase us down, we run away. They tackle us, they handcuff us, put us in the car, bring us to the campus police station, and we're sitting there locked up. This is a week from commencement.
And you're bombed.
Yeah, wasted. But I figure, you know what? We're sitting here with these 2 officers. I might as well put on a comedy show, right?
Perfect.
But not just any comedy show. I decided to do roast comedy.
Oh, shit.
And I said, hey, officers, because this is campus police, I said, I really like your uniforms. Do you get to wear those this weekend when you work mall security? And they did not like that joke because they said, you know, we don't got to listen to this. Why don't you get back in the car? We're going to take you to the town jail, Mutton Town Jail, where they'll charge you with breaking and entering on a public property, and you're going to be charged with a real crime. So we get in that car, driven down the street to the next police station, and we go in there. They put me behind bars this time, and they handcuff me to a bench. Josh is over on a chair, and there's 2 officers there, 2 town cops. I just remember thinking, like, this is just my luck. 2 shows in one night. So I roast those officers, and I say the worst thing I've ever said to a person in authority. I said, hey, because they were like writing up the report or whatever on the computer, and I said, hey, officer, you're pretty good on that keyboard. I didn't know pigs could type.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
But to you, you're thinking, this is funny.
Objectively, that is a good joke.
That's like how I thought burning a kid was funny.
The math of the joke is good.
And we don't understand why they're not laughing.
Yeah, and they weren't laughing, and they said, we don't got to listen to this. We're going to put you in the paddy wagon. We're going to bring you to Nassau County Jail.
He kept leveling up.
Did you end up in Leavenworth?
So we go to Nassau County Jail, and those cops say you're going to go there and you'll see the judge in the morning and you'll be arraigned for this breaking and entering. And we get in the paddy wagon. I'm starting to sober up now. We get into the holding cell where there's 12 people in there. It's a bunch of mostly drunk drivers, of course. There were 2 guys who carjacked somebody, and there was a taxi driver who killed his passenger in a fight. So I decided I would not roast anybody.
Good
I was
call.
like, I'm clocking out for the night. And, you know, everybody's going around in the circle. You know, the carjackers are like, we didn't steal that car. They got the wrong guys. And the taxi driver said, this guy came at me. I had to defend myself. He took his tire iron and, like, swung it at the guy, and it hit the guy in his inner thigh, and it
ripped open
severed that main artery, and the
bled out.
Yeah, horrible. It was in the news and everything, and then one of the drunk drivers is like, "What are you guys in for?" And that's when I said, "Do you guys like Fruit Loops?
Yeah.
We're here because of sugary foods and
Had a hankering.
2% milk." So yeah, all these years later on Long Island, we're still known as the Fruit Loop Bandits.
Holy shit!
Nice.
So yeah, that was the one night I spent in jail, but I had many interactions with police over the years. One time with Josh again, a year or two after college, he had an apartment in Long Island. I loved a house party, just go drink my 20 beers, and then get hungry. We go to 7-Eleven, and I walked into the 7-Eleven, and I took 2 of those bananas that they have in the corner. Took the bananas and held them up. I said, "All right, this is a robbery," which is funny. I'm not going to rob the place with bananas. These guys called the cops on me.
No shit.
And the cops were there instantaneously again. The climbing stuff in my hometown. I climbed the water tower in my hometown. Cops got called. And you know why? Because I was heckling people from like
nice.
6 stories up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Suck.
It's the middle of the night too, so there's like barely anybody around. It's a tiny little
Well, you
town.
were trying to gather them around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And eventually people did collect.
Yeah.
And the cops came. I got away, and they came to my door because I live blocks away from there. They said, "We heard Patrick." I think I was saying my name. They're like, "We're looking for Patrick." And my stepdad covered for me. He's like, "Hey, he's not here." I was hiding in the backyard. And that's when that was a joke that came from this stuff. Because a neighbor of mine for years who heard about the cops and the water tower and the whatever, he said, "Oh, it's Superman or Spider-Man. Look who it is. Spider-Man's here." And so now I tell a joke that when I got drunk, I would take off all my clothes and climb buildings like a sex offender Spider-Man. And that was because of Rich Barnhart.
Well, you stick better to the buildings when you're naked.
Yeah, it sounds to me like the problem might not have been alcohol. It might have been just Josh.
Or the pursuit.
Whenever you're with Josh, this shit goes down.
Poor Josh, man. He's a guy I had to make a real amends to. I made my amends to him while making a beer run. I was sober, but we were at a party. He had to go get beer. And we were at the Pathmark where we used to buy beer in Long Island for our parties. And I said, "Hey, I really put you through a lot with my stuff." And, I gave as formal of an amends as I could. And he's another one who's like, "Dude, it's fine. I'm just glad you're safe. I love you. But, like, you don't got to apologize for all that." And you know that feeling of like, but I'm not apologizing. I'm just trying to communicate this thing, you know.
I want you to understand.
And I want I'm
you
just
to feel it.
Yeah, and I want to, I guess I'm a little bit of a masochist. I want you to be like, "Yeah, that sucked. You were a prick, and I'm glad you're doing better." But he's the best. He's like the best guy.
I always found that family is like that. They'll be like, "You know what? I'm just glad you're better, and just stay that way." That can be just keep going.
Yeah.
And the big book says
Good job, buddy.
explicitly that's going to happen. People are just going to and you'll want to say more, but don't.
Yeah.
So at the end of our time here, I just want to
already
I know time flies.
Let's do a third one. I can do it.
All right, well, let's do a 6-pack.
Oh yeah.
I'll come back next summer.
Yeah.
I would love to.
it.
All right. I just want you to tell the listeners out there again where they can find you.
Yeah, start at my website. I'm trying to blog more, too. I'm trying to write more. So it's patrickholbert.com or Instagram, The Holbert Report, or YouTube. You could just search Patrick Holbert. I'm trying to be better about getting stuff out in the world. So if you would like to come to a show, I keep my calendar updated on my website. When my special comes out, I'll probably communicate about that mostly on Instagram. And I would love for people to see it. And if you're in recovery, I would love for you to share it with somebody if you enjoy it.
Right, and if you're ever in Bushwick, go to the what was it?
North Brooklyn Recovery Center
for the 9 a.m. meeting and see Patrick live.
Yeah. My tight 3 minutes about why having a toddler is hard.
All right.
All right. Well, until next time on the Glum Lot Podcast, I'm Mark.
I am Brett.
I'm Patrick Holbert. Thanks so much, guys.
As we wrap up another episode of the Glum Lot Podcast, we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you who tuned in today. Navigating the path to recovery from alcohol and other substances is a journey filled with challenges, triumphs, and self-discovery. Remember, we're not affiliated with Alcoholics Anonymous, but we're here to provide a safe space for open conversations about the complexities of recovery. Your stories, courage, and resilience inspire us and our listeners alike. If you or someone you know is on the transformative journey, know that you're not alone. Join us next time as we continue to explore the diverse facets of recovery. Until then, stay strong, stay connected, and remember that each day is a step towards a brighter, sober tomorrow. Thank you for being part of the Glum Lot community.